My name is Callan Sack, and I use they them pronouns. My experience with art and history was actually quite like an introduction, I guess, to navigating, I guess, social circles that also shared similar politics as me in Halifax.
Hi, my name is Fatima, and over the past almost 2 years, so maybe like a year and a half, I've been part of the Art and History project with HeartWood. And the community project that I did was called Immigrant Youth of Halifax.
So my name is Ray, and the project I decided to do with HeartWood was an art project, and it was just an art project to bring awareness to the fact that transgender people are beautiful and they all have different looks, and that every look that they have is artistic in its own way, and it creates its own sort of space that's needed. So it's sort of just about like the whole project itself sort of became, I think, more about taking space as it progressed, which was really interesting to me because there was also like kind of a conversation, or I guess like storytelling element that came to it, just to have people meeting together of similar backgrounds where we felt we could speak without having to explain terms frequently, or like just kind of a natural flow.
So the project that I did, pretty much what it is, it's a photo writing project. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to do something that was personally connected to me, where, I didn't do something that, was not part of my community entirely. I didn't really feel comfortable doing that just yet. So as a second generation immigrant to parents who are immigrants, I thought it would be really cool to do it's sort of like Humans of New York style, but where it would be to take a photo of different youth in Halifax who are immigrant youth, but also sort of to take the photo, but also interview them on some of their accomplishments or their perspectives on things, just being newcomers in Halifax and sort of like what that entails, but sort of just to also celebrate.
Hi, my name's Bria. I was the, community facilitator kind of / organizer for the BIPOC Youth Art Nights. Basically that there were like 5 different sessions, like creative sessions that I had with youth in the community. It was supposed to be between the ages of like 16 and 30, but that kind of expanded a little bit due to like more interest from younger people. And yeah, essentially every session was like a different medium. There was like everything from fort building to like felting, or we also like designed journals together, all kinds of different stuff.
My name is Shai Shak. I am 24 years old. I live in Halifax, Nova Scotia. I first became involved with art and history probably around the fall of 2016, which is funny to think of. Wow.
Programming was always like really fun, and it was once again great learning. Like as like a sweet baby angel coming to the city for the first time, like I just needed to shut up and learn, and like HeartWood and Art and History gave that to me in like a lot of different ways that I never really knew that I needed until that point. The programming was always like very welcoming, and also like very soothing. So that was very refreshing. It was a little bit scary because like once again, like it was my first time actually like being in a city, and it was really nice just meeting a bunch of like other cool people who I can like learn from, and like they can like share their knowledge with me, and I can share my knowledge with them, and also just like have a laugh.
I had found out about art and history through a Facebook page, and I liked it, and then I just like followed. I was just following up with the pages, and there was like one gathering, like the first gathering event, and I just wanted to like go there on a whim. Had no idea who I was going to meet, but it like honestly, the timing of that intersecting with my life was like very poignant. The moment I walked into that room, I felt really connected to everybody there, and I just knew that this would be like a group of people who could help me at this point in my life.
I felt HeartWood was really helpful because I find I start a lot of projects like this, I have a hard time with follow-up. So it's good to have somebody checking in on you, like outside accountability source, kind of, keeping you on track on timeline a little bit or whatever.
I really liked the variety of guests that we had that came like on a weekly basis. There were different leaders in the community. I really appreciated the fact that there were elders, but also people like my age who were present leading like workshops in that allow them to share like aspects of their life and find and how we as a group can find connections between them, or just to like really hold the differences between us. Yeah, I thought the programming, one thing I really particularly liked was the variety in programming and the reverence for like having like an intergenerational dialogue from beginning to end. Yeah.
Oh, Heart and History as a whole was great. Heart and History, I feel like, came at a really good point for me because I just wasn't really doing a lot. I was kind of bored, so I felt like it gave me sort of just a good structure to just be even doing one thing a week like that. I felt like motivated me to do more things in the week because I'm like, well, I'm doing this thing, so I'll do more things throughout the week. One of my workers originally told me about Heart and History through Phoenix. I can't remember which worker it was, but she was like, it's a social justice group, you should go. That was like basically the entire description I was given, so I was like, this could be kind of anything, but okay. Like, it seemed very broad to me.
I see Heart and History as like a really huge like solidarity building, like building awareness of it on different levels, both like spiritual, but also like in a tangible way in our everyday communities.
One big thing is it's really important. I learned how important it was to, especially meeting a new person, and sort of like sometimes they're in a position of vulnerability, but also like, you know what I mean? So for example, some of the youth, there are different levels of like comfort zone. Some would be very outgoing, some would be more, introverted or shy. I realized that it was really important for me to be fully transparent. So I always knew that, but it's just like I never got to do it in practice in terms of like the nature of this. So sort of, because essentially what you're doing is you're asking these youth to, like share a part of themselves, but also to celebrate them. But there are some moments where some people decided to share some like challenges being in Halifax and some difficulties. So definitely learning that.
When I grew up, there wasn't a lot of people like this, but now you see like in the media and images and pictures and stuff like that. Now you see for the generation now, it's the internet, it's obviously kind of a lot more common. So it's interesting to me to think if I've been born in that generation, how it would have maybe differently impacted myself personally coming out. So now that putting this project out, somebody else could see that, maybe get inspiration for it. I think I just kind of think of that as a more longer term effect, I guess, of the project potentially.
I did it in collaboration with the YMCA, and so what that looked like was I have a friend who works with the YMCA, and I contacted her and I asked her, if she had any youth in mind, and so it's just been an ongoing process, or just like ongoing collaboration between just sort of like me and learning more about the YMCA of Halifax, but also the youth, and meeting all of them through the YMCA. Yeah.
I think I developed like different skills. I think I probably got a little bit better at organizing with that, because I mean, the more you organize, it's kind of like you have to always practice organization to get better at it. I feel like the more you do it in your life, the more you get better at it. So I feel like that probably went up a bit. Just my confidence, I guess, overall was probably a big boost from this, just because, like I said, I started a lot of things I have trouble with follow through with this project I felt was a really good thing.
My experience of working with the Heart and History project has been like, I guess the word for me that's coming up is like expansive. Like I feel like all of my kind of like facilitator skills that I got from other projects kind of got to show up because I was just trusted to run this thing, which again for me just really brings up like the youth, like how important youth-led projects are again. Yeah, like I've never really had that much freedom, even though I've worked jobs where I've been considered like a community facilitator, or I've been considered to have like power. It's always been kind of micromanaging, but because that wasn't part of it, there was just so much room for this to grow in whatever way the youth were interested, I guess. Yeah.
I think the most challenging aspect on the project was sort of just the space. Again, like space was a really central theme, and like taking up space of where I wanted to physically have the portraits was kind of a big debate as I went along the project. I thought of different areas that I might want to have it, like if I wanted to have it at a higher class art gallery, what kind of crowd and different people that may attract, versus if I wanted to have it at, you know, like a bar scene, what kind of crowd might that attract, or if I want to have it at a place where it's non-alcoholic. I found it was really hard, actually, specifically looking for a place that was both physically accessible for people with, like, you know, different disabilities, and also had gender neutral washrooms. I found that was a really interesting intersection, which I personally hadn't considered being like currently able-bodied. So, you know, that was a learning experience. That was, I found really challenging just because I hadn't thought about it, so I didn't have like previous resources to be like, hey, so where's the places with the wheelchair ramps, like who can help me out with this? I didn't really think to have that until I started to think more diversely with the people I wanted involved in the project, and one of the people I originally wanted photographed would have had that need, so it makes you think differently, right? There's something I said, I think at one point when we were talking about different issues, just like I didn't know what I didn't know, and I still feel like kind of the overall experience of HeartWood kind of taught me that, just you know, talking to different people that I wouldn't have regularly talked to. Like somebody I connected with I thought was really interesting was like, I'm personally vegan, which is related to the story. I try not to just brag, which is I was talking to somebody who does like the traditional seal hunting in her family, and it gave me a completely new perspective on this. So that was really, like, I thought interesting, like how would that happen to me other than something of heart and history?
The hardest part, I would say, about like getting involved in programs like this is knowing the right people, because I wouldn't have gotten involved in projects like this if I didn't know the right people, or if the right people didn't know me. So like for like new youth coming into the city, it's like very difficult because there's like that barrier of shyness that you have to overcome, especially if you're coming from like a location like a reserve where like the community is so tight and like you basically know everyone for most of your upbringing. So like branching out, and especially trying to find like familiar community in cities, is difficult. And it is trying to like get over that hurdle of who do I know, who do I want to know, who do I want to spend time with, who is valuable to my time, and like that's the advice I would give any youth. Know your community outreach programs, know like your friendship centers, your libraries, know what is being offered to you, and then find it. And like that's scary, that's difficult, that is hard. But it's also very valuable, and it's also very rewarding, because like I wouldn't really be as awesome as I am right now without programs like Heart and History.
I thought it was really great. I loved of Heart and History overall. I was so glad that I decided to go to the meetings for that, because of that worker told me the social justice group. I was like, oh, that's really broad, but okay, I'll go.
I think the thing that I enjoyed the most working with the community is like the fact that so many like people younger than I expected to come actually came, and like consistently, like they were the people that just brought so much vibrance to any of the workshops, and also the most enthusiasm.
There's definitely a lot of different like steps involved to the project overall. Different people I had to reach out to before, and there's waiting involved a lot of, which I find frustrating, because you have to reach out to somebody, you have to wait for them to get back to you. You can't move forward on another stage of the project until the other person gets back to you. But I felt like that was good, because in the of Heart and History group, like you kind of always had somebody to reach out to kind of vent to, I guess, if you needed to, or, you know, just like think about, okay, so when this does happen, what am I going to do then? And you get excited about that. You kind of change your mentality on the project. I felt that was really good. And just kind of overall, like laying out the steps at the beginning was really good for me with the project. Like when we first met up at the beginning and we were talking about like, and we kind of physically sat down together and wrote out, okay, so we're going to do this and this and this. And at the time I thought it seemed kind of basic, but I also felt it was very like useful after, once I realized it. I was like, I should probably do this more often.
Working with an external organization, this was sort of my first time doing it in that sort of capacity. And definitely it was really, really different in the sense where it was also something I learned a lot from.
I guess like community networking, if you want to call it that. Just like reaching out with people who were similar to myself was kind of a fun experience. And I found different, I mean, I kind of had an idea of like different organizations involved with queer trans stuff already, but I found also new ones probably through this project a little bit. So that was cool.
I learned that so like it's a lesson for next time is I think it's really important to like put deadlines for yourself, because it's when it comes to communications, especially with like more than one person where there's many different individuals and factors involved, time can definitely slip out of your hands. So I definitely learned that so it's okay, and that I learned that like I have people. So Raven has been my mentor throughout it. Definitely learn that like it's okay to rely on them and just like other people in your life to, you know what I mean, if you're struggling in a certain aspect. Just I learned that it is something very hard for me, and I know it's hard for a lot of people, but sometimes to just like talk to them, talk to your friend, or talk to whoever you're working with or you're collaborating with, or someone who is like helping you. So that's something I learned to do, and like honestly brings so much relief.
So I think it was pretty inspiring overall for different things in the future, and I think I'll probably think about more ways to combine like mental health and trans and queer related stuff now because of this. Like I'm kind of thinking about this more as a future career path. So
I learned more about photography because I didn't know anything. So I learned from my friend. And I also learned more about sort of like, the protocol of working with another organization. There's a lot that I didn't know about that. So that like, you need like approval on all ends. You need like acknowledgement. So that was something I kind of learned to put in practice. I learned a lot from each youth. So what they would tell me. I learned a lot about what they were doing in the community, which was really cool. And I learned about different things that happen, like events that happen in Halifax that I didn't even know about, but a lot of these youth would like volunteer at or perform at. So that was really cool. And I got to learn about sort of their first impressions upon coming, or some of the challenges upon coming to Halifax, but also just like about their schools or how difficult it is to get a job for a lot of these youth, and like the difficulties of a language barrier, just like cultural differences. So yeah, I learned a lot from the youth themselves, on top of like lessons from trying to do this project.
Working with HeartWood again reminded me of like the framework and about like how important youth-led initiatives are and like different workshops. And then that also kind of, pushed me to develop the workshops in a way that they were like open enough so that they could actually bring what they were interested in to the different mediums that we did. And I feel like that was really awesome, and also got like quite a bit of feedback from them about the fact that I let them do what they wanted to do, which felt really awesome. And again, is something I want to continue to provide. I just feel like youth-led projects are even more important to me now after that experience. I wish spaces like this were like a more consistent thing in our city, especially because like the potential for talking about like a lot of really intense stuff in a way that like kids, like teachers can't talk to them and stuff. It's just like a possibility here.
I think like HeartWood's a really unique program. Was something I kind of kept thinking the whole time, is that we don't see a lot of programs like this with youth that are kind of longer term with follow through, which I feel like that's an important skill to teach youth. Like we're talking about important skills. So if we want, youth to grow up and learn follow through, I feel like we need more programs on this large scale that HeartWood is kind of on, with follow through to teach people that. And yeah, just overall, it was a pretty great experience. I think that's probably it.
All right, SankoFest is the name of the action project that I organized alongside my amazing partner in crime, Jade Byard Peak. It came from the fact that last summer Jade and I had been running like a second edition of a reading group that we started like in the winter, like the Black Lives Matter reading group, and that because we were starting like a second round of it, we were thinking of like other dynamic ways that we could engage our participants, and we were thinking of like different field trips, and like we had like one big dream of like, oh, what if we had like some kind of like festival, and when honestly, yeah, another thing of timing. Around the time that we were getting those ideas, like the urgency for us as participants within Of Heart and History to decide what we were going to do was coming up, and so I was like, whoa, this could be a perfect opportunity to get this like dream project off the ground. And so Jade and I tried to dream big of what like our ideal. If we could curate a festival in Halifax that like can really highlight just like the amazing diasporic variety of like Black people of African descent, African Nova Scotians in one space, what could that like look like? And what we came up with was like Sankofest. It was just like a really inspiring time to see to mobilize so quickly and be able to host like a variety of different like conversations and like creative art forms to encourage dialogue and just like upliftment in our community. Yeah, to not be afraid, like because that, I don't know, if you're looking for community because of like a lack of it in whatever context you are in, it's really worth it to just try to find the resources that are there, and don't be afraid to accept that your community is not going to look like whatever idea of community is projected to you on like the internet. You know what I mean? Like Of Heart and History really welcomes like an eclectic array of like beautiful individuals that are so radiant in their own ways, but like you just like you have to like, to be a part of this thing, just come in with like absolutely no walls or like shattered expectations of what you think you're going to walk into, because with that way you can embrace something that can totally change your life. Yeah, all I have is like so much like gratitude and like love for the people who were a part of that. Without their support, like Sankofest couldn't have happened, and like without their support, like I think I would have been a lot lonelier. And just like thinking of certain things, like I really needed to interact with like those like people in like a creative way too. Like really, you can edit it out, but it's the truth. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I would like to say thank you. I would just like to say thank you to like Heart and History, to Raven Davis, to, I don't know, just like all the cool, queer, racialized, rad, awesome, sweet babes like in the city, and just like those like not in the city. Say thank you to my ancestors, say thank you to this land, say thank you to the North End because it's like actually the best place ever. Say thank you, and to be appreciative of the things that I have and how lucky I was. I would just like to say thank you.